Welcome. This is the performance improvement ideas that I have gathered from Topol's The Patient Will See You Now. In this presentation, I'm going to go over the main ideas and arguments of that book and share 3 performance improvement ideas that I've got from it. Sharing patient data, adopting technological advances, and using the technology to help reduce expenses. I put in quotes the actual subtitles that I put on the slides to reduce confusion. No information that I got from this book did I receive without some sort of apprehension. I can't really accept any of the points that Dr. Topol makes without some apprehension. I'm kind of resistant to technological-based changes. I still have a flip phone. I apologize for the basement. It's late and I do not want to wake my children. The main argument of this book is that the ubiquity of smartphones and the amount of data that we can share and the amount that we could generate will lead to a new revolution like the printing press, which gave us the Renaissance and the Reformation and literacy and political changes like democracy. The smartphone, says Topol, will be able to change the relationship between a doctor and a patient from one of paternalism, which he opposes throughout the book, to one of democratization, a more relationship-based care model of care, where the patient will generate the data and will collaborate with the doctor to improve health. He says that cell phones will help out with this, in that he does not use his stethoscope anymore. He uses his cell phone to monitor people's hearts through ultrasonography connected to a cell phone. That EKGs that patients get for themselves can be shared with doctors when there's a problem. Labs can be taken with adjuncts to the cell phones, and he really, really likes implanted sensors, far more than I do. I'll go into that, but he thinks that the data that we can generate and share based on that and based on the combination of those things with the genome will help prevent, predict, and treat all the diseases that we are suffering now, both infectious and chronic. He feels that these changes will change how medicine is done itself, that there will be less doctors and less doctor appointments. The waiting room will be a thing of the past. The hospital will start to go away except for severe cases and post-operative recovery, and that less expensive gadgets, so MRI machines, ultrasounds, EKG machines, all of those things could be compacted and economized so that the patient could do them themselves and not clog up the hospital, and be more convenient for the patient. So 3 ideas that I've got from this book, 3 performance improvement ideas. First one, open up the charts, redefine the relationship from the patient. That is a great idea that Dr. Topol had. It's starting to be followed already by at least my hospital, and I know by hospitals across the country, where patients are getting more access to their labs and images. He suggests that they should see their own doctor's notes as well. Whenever that happens, doctors are concerned that there will be increased anxiety and confusion by the patients when they see their own notes. Dr. Topol and Giardini et al. Have found that that is not the case. There's increased patient satisfaction when they see their own notes. The research is still kind of nascent, and so they don't have increased outcomes based on seeing their own notes as of yet, but they do have better satisfaction, and there is no increase in anxiety based on seeing their own notes. When we as patients have our own data available to us, that will be more easy to be shared in research, so that studies like the one that Dr. Topol puts in this book, where 900 patients with the liquid cancers, lymphoma and leukemia, were able to get their cells, their cancer cells sequenced and then shared, so that they can be compared to how they respond to treatment, to how their cancer progresses, so that treatment can be improved and refined for everybody. That data, however, can be easily taken advantage of, and that is a qualm that I have with opening up the medical data to the patient. So I can't endorse it wholeheartedly. It is a great idea, but I have some reservations. Genetic data, even when the identifiers are taken away for patient identity, it is very easy to re-identify patients based on that data, and misused by unscrupulous people. It could also be given into the hands of insurers who could unfairly raise rates on people based on the diseases that their genome found that they shared for research purposes. In fact, this happened with Care.Data. This is a UK-based hospital record system of 47 million patients over years, that one unscrupulous person in the Care.Data network of the National Health Service of Britain sold it to insurers in an unethical way. It took one person to compromise 47 million people of their protected health information. A similar cyber attack compromised a 206 hospital network in 2014. Also, we live in an age where DNA from a crime scene can be corresponded with genomic data that is out there, and you can be questioned about family members based on how genetically similar you are to the suspect. All of these things give me pause about opening up medical data further than it is now, to where it can be misused by people other than the patient. Second performance improvement idea that I gleaned from The Patient Will See You Now is to embrace some of the technology that is out there. This has come home to roost with me recently. Our family recently kind of discovered that a Holter monitor, the copay for the Holter monitor, is about the same as getting a in-home EKG unit that we would be able to use indefinitely. Otherwise, lab on a chip technology, other diagnostics are getting developed and refined that would make it cheaper and more accessible for us to use. It was found that in an implantable sensor for congestive heart failure reduced by 30% the amount of urgent doctor visits and emergency room visits, having that data as an advanced warning. And it's being these sort of interventions are being embraced by Healthy People 2020. Unfortunately, the flip side is that I do not believe that the internet is a democracy. I believe that Google has a greater share in the information that's disseminated than I do. I'm concerned that a chip or a sensor that is implanted inside of me could get misused, hacked, or observed in ways that are pretty unethical and unscrupulous. When those sensors would fail, any sort of implantable device that would take another surgery to reimplant it, to fix it, even if it was minimally invasive, that is an increased risk for an infection and an unnecessary surgery that we are incurring upon our patients. And lastly, I do not believe that telemedicine will necessarily improve relationship-based care, because you're putting one more remove between the doctor and the patient. The patient is not seeing the doctor anymore. It's seeing the screen of an iPhone that a doctor is appearing through, which I think could equally have a depersonalizing effect on healthcare. The third performance improvement idea that was very poignant throughout The Patient Will See You Now is cost effectiveness in healthcare. Dr. Topol states that $4,300 a day is the cost for a hospital stay. He advocates even making some sort of medical in-home suite for that amount of money, where there would be sensors on the floor indicating whether you're about to fall, or lots of other biometric sensors that would help determine your health status from home in a way that wouldn't increase your risk for a nosocomial infection. He also quotes a Institute of Medicine study that reported $272 billion of medical waste, because, among other things, the FDA does not price regulate like other countries have their regulating bodies regulate prices of medical care, and also that often our doctors do not want to know the price of the things that they are prescribing or treating their patients with. They think that that will somehow compromise the level of care that they will give their patients. However, bankrupting our patients is not a sound medical strategy. I came into contact with that when patients had pubic rami fractures, an injury that was too bad for them to stay at home safely, but not bad enough for them to require an inpatient stay, so that Medicare would not cover their stay, but they would have to go to a nursing home. That could be a financially devastating injury. In addition to discussing the amount of waste that our medical system has, Dr. Topol went over lots of technology-based cost-saving measures, like the $1 microscope that could find bacterial infections, like the cancer-detecting microphone that could, based on the way your breath sounds in the microphone of an iPhone, it could detect lung cancer, or the radar malaria detector, where a laser beam blasted through some blood cells, and based on the sound that a malarial infected blood cell would give off, it could detect malaria. Also, there was a study that showed a leprosy point of care test that was more accurate than the ELISA. Again, most of my qualms have to deal with access. So even if you give free Wi-Fi to Africa, to an African country, which is one of the points that Dr. Topol makes, is that altruism, is it entrepreneurialism? You now have all of the same data that you are collecting from internet searches in order to sell things. Will Verizon own the world? I do not see that as a democratization, if so. And that is a very big qualm I have about the technology-based cost savings. It might not save costs if there's a monopoly on the stream of information, just like there might be a monopoly on the subscription if it was like a Netflix sort of subscription rate for your CHF implanted sensor. Why does it matter? For one, there are more internet-connected devices than people right now, but more importantly, patients deserve to have a better autonomous relationship with their data and with their doctors and with their medical providers. And medicine always uses new interventions when technology makes them available. So we should continue to do that. And we should continue to improve costs. These performance improving ideas relate to the texts of our class, in that it, if implemented correctly, would increase the capabilities of relationship-based care, but would also test the limits of agility and flexibility that would be needed to implement these changes. So, in conclusion, there needs to be a very wise balance in the ways that we use technology so that we do not get used by it. Thank you. And these are the works that I used in preparing this. Thank you very much.